I don't think it's ever too late to be a blogger. I mean, I think there's a ton of worth to blogging, and you can use, your own website or something like Medium, which is a wonderful platform. I love it. Um, you want to have kind of thought leadership material, why it is that you deserve people's business.
You're listening to the Real Estate Sessions podcast. Join us as we get the stories of the leaders in the real estate industry. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode 223 of the Real Estate Sessions podcast. As I always say, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for telling a friend. And today I get to go to the place I love to go. Many of you know, if you've listened to the show, how much I love people who know how to write. Copywriters, they're such smart people, and I think so underappreciated. And that's what I get to do today. I get to talk to and think with me here. If you've been in the business a while, we're going to go back in time to Melissa Case. She did some great things in real estate. She did some work at Happy Grasshopper, had a consulting firm. Now she's with Citrix, and she's actually the manager of social community, content, and campaigns. And so I can't wait to talk to her about that as well. Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Look, I've said this a million times. I am such a fanboy of copywriters. And to be honest, as I send questions out in advance to you, and as I was writing these questions, it was like, oh no, I'm writing and I'm sending it to Melissa. So just so you're aware of this, I uploaded it to my Grammarly account, and I ran it through the Grammarly, program, and got up to a 98. It started off as a 77, but I got it to a 98.
I like it.
For me, it's the damn passive voice. So I want to, first of all, I have a statement. I want you to tell me what you think about it. I believe copywriters are way underappreciated, and that most people think they're really good writers. Am I right?
I think both of those things are absolutely 100% true. Right. I think that a lot of people think that everybody can just write. And while the physical process, yes, everybody can write words and do all of those things, to be able to write well is no different than being able to paint well or sing well or draw well or any of those things. Not everybody can do everything great. And so there are great real estate agents, there are great mortgage officers, and there are great writers, and not everybody can be all of those things.
Right. Now, before I get into the bulk of the kind of the meat of the podcast, I want to talk to you about what you're doing today, because Citrix, that's a big company. I'm with Fidelity, so I use Citrix tools all the time, as far as accessing our network and some security things. Tell me what you're doing. What are you doing there?
So like you said, I manage social community content and campaigns. And the short version of that is that I am their social loudmouth. So I run all of our social programs. So wherever you see Citrix online, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc., I am the voice behind all of that. And I've been with them for about 5 years, and originally joined them to be an editor and a writing flack, but they knew that I had a background in social, and so it was a perfect fit, and here I am.
I always like to start on the podcast going back in time, and let's figure a few things out. It's not an insult to call you a grammar cop?
Oh, absolutely not. And that's a badge I wear with pride.
All right. So I can only imagine what you were like in middle school if this passion had already blossomed. So that's the question, is when did you know this was going to be a passion of yours?
Yeah, I was a pain in the neck. I'm hoping that my old friends will see that with some affection. But so my mom was an English teacher and so I was in one of those families where she would, at the dinner table, correct everybody's, she would stop my brother and me in the midst of whatever story we were relating about school and correct us as we went. And this was a nasty habit that I picked up. And so, yes, I was super annoying, but I've always been fascinated with writing and English and its weird rules. And English is a difficult language for sure. It makes no sense. It's kind of a puzzle, and it's just really fun for me. So I've always been this way. So,
So when you say that you might correct people, does it affect you? There are times you can't do that, right? Social settings or certain things where you have to bite your tongue.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Does it create stress a little bit for you?
Not really. Most of the time I take it with a grain of salt. And so if anybody follows me online, you'll see I have this sort of Twitter series that I call, The More You Know, and where I will point out some misspelling that someone has made. I will never call anybody out by name unless I'm really good friends with somebody and I can naturally just kind of give them a little good-natured ribbing. One of my favorites is when people mix up compliment and complement with an E. And so, I will point out what the differences are and explain, this is why this is spelled this way and that sort of thing. But that is my own personal therapy. So that's how I work out my grammar frustrations.
I like it. Yeah, we're going to talk about we'll give all your Twitter and all Facebook. We'll get all that at the end of the show so we can people can start following you. I know you attended University of Maryland. Did you grow up in Maryland?
I sure did.
Okay.
I grew up in Gaithersburg, and then when as a grown up, I lived in Annapolis for years and years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions. One, your field of study. I'm hoping inside you say something other than English, but I don't think I'm right. And and when you were there, did the Terps have those crazy helmets with that crazy flag?
Well, first of all, the Maryland state flag is the most beautiful in the nation. And so that crazy flag is something that we love. And actually, no, those came after I graduated, and I love those. And those are all designed by Under Armour, which is all the guys who own that company also went to Maryland.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing. And also go Terps. But I'm going to disappoint you. So I majored in medieval British literature. I am an absolute English dork. There probably can't do it anymore. Was a time when I could actually read Beowulf in Old English. I did have a minor in linguistics, speech patterns and how the language itself actually works, fricatives and all of those things. And so, but yeah, I am an English geek through and through.
Wow. Look, that's great. I think that's awesome. And like I said, it leads to what you've accomplished over the years. Yeah. So let's talk about, what was your first gig out of college?
So I went into PR initially. So I had a short stint with Ringling Brothers doing PR in a junior sense there.
Right here in the state of Florida, Sarasota.
Actually in Virginia. So
their headquarters is in Sarasota, right?
That's right, yeah. So in McLean, Virginia, they have an office there. Giant gorilla in the lobby. It was great fun. And then I took a position with a law firm in Bethesda, Maryland, which is just outside of DC. And I ran their PR shop. The litigators there wanted to get their big cases on Fox and everywhere else. And so I was their press flack. And after that, I was there till 2000 when I left and had babies and stuff, as happens.
Right. So somewhere real estate comes calling, right? So let's talk about how that happened.
Yeah. So that the babies actually have a lot to do with that. So my in-laws run a real estate company in Anne Arundel County, Maryland, which is where Annapolis is. And my then husband's family, everybody is in real estate. And so they said, you love people, you love talking, you'd be great as an agent. So off I went. And so I was an agent in the during the boom in the 2000s and had a great time, met some terrific people, lots and lots of folks in the industry, and discovered that as an agent, I'm a great writer. Um, yeah.
I like that.
Hmm.
So you the sales side of things, that other part of the business, you kind of determined after a year or two that really wasn't your thing.
Yeah, I did it for about 5 years. And then, so I speak the real estate language very well. It's something I understand, very well, but I just didn't like the sales side of it. So what I decided to do was help agents write and do better marketing.
So that's where Honeybee comes in.
Hmm.
So let's talk about your consulting company and what were some of the things you were doing and some of the, maybe if you can even talk about it, some of the companies you were helping.
Sure. Oh gosh, I worked with so many people. So one of the first things I did, I know you said you've got Mark Davison coming on, and so I worked with Thousand Watt and did lots of blog writing for them. I won't tell you for whom, but I did a lot of writing for their clients. I did a bunch of work with like Jeff Turner. And who everybody knows. I helped organize RE Blog World is not a thing anymore,
Yeah.
but I helped organize that. I worked with Todd Carpenter at NAR and with Mike Simonson at Altos Research and Dan Green and on and on and on. So I mean, so I did pretty much anything. My pitch was always that, if it could be written, I could write it, and better than anybody. That was my quick pitch. And so since I understood real estate, it was a natural fit. People who don't write for a living often get frustrated by it, especially when it comes to writing about themselves. So one of the things that I did was, I wrote people's bios for them. So the about pages that you would read on people's websites, that kind of thing. Lots of blog posts. I wrote people's websites, lots of home descriptions, things like that. People
Wow.
who,
Yeah.
I did it.
I want your take on companies like iWriter and Fiverr,
Mm-hmm.
where I can go like really cheap and I can get somebody to write something for me.
Mm-hmm.
How do you handle that as a professional?
You get what you pay for.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. When you are out to spend as little as possible, you're going to get that kind of product. People
Yeah.
are going to put the effort in. So it's funny that I found that the more I charged, and I didn't charge outlandish amounts of money, but when I was trying to, kind of get out there and get exposure, as people say, and I was charging much less. I got far less business and was much more frustrated than when I started asking for the money that I felt that I was worth. If you want a quality product, then you should be willing to pay people for it.
Yeah. I think that's a great lesson for a lot of people listening in,
Mm-hmm.
right? That don't undervalue what you do. It's
Mm-hmm.
we tend to do that. We tend to
Absolutely.
deflect and go, oh no, really, no, don't worry. And really we should be proud of what we do, right?
Yeah, for sure. And, there's a whole culture of people out there who say, hey, I want to pick your brain. No, don't do that to people. Do not,
Right.
people's time is worth something. And if their brain pickings are worth it to you, then pay them for that.
Yeah. Love that. I connected with you. It was on Twitter a long time ago.
Long
I
time
think,
ago.
yeah, probably that early re.net that, Turner and all those people talk about. You were part of that crew. And I realized as I was researching for the show, I hadn't friended you on Facebook because
Mm-hmm.
you're a Twitter person to me.
Yeah.
That's where we connect. And so I'm going to make you choose. Do you have a favorite social network out there that you kind of defer to?
I go back and forth, right now. No, and when we connected on Twitter, that was sort of the golden age of Twitter, if you
Right.
will. And people talk about it wistfully and all of that. And honestly, I did make a ton of connections there, people that I'm still friends with to this day. There came a time when I felt like Twitter was more noise than anything else. And then I became more of a Facebook person. And I have sort of gone back to Twitter now for various reasons. Facebook frustrates me a bit right now. I will not go into all of those things because that's a whole different can of worms. I like Instagram a lot just because of the visual nature of it. Nobody's favorite is LinkedIn. Bless it. It's useful, but it's no fun. So, but I like Twitter a lot. It's funny, it's fast, and I can be weird, and I am weird. So I'm at peace with that.
And, now they give you 280 characters. You can write a little bit more. It's all good, right?
I know. I was one of those people who I was just aghast at first. How could you change this? And now I can't keep under 280 now. So
let's talk about kind of looking back one more time. You're in the business right when social media explodes, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a safe. Obviously, you were an early adopter of social, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm going to use an English term here. If I asked you to compare/contrast social media 2008 versus social media 2020, what does it look like?
So yeah, I was on Twitter early on. It was a brand new platform in 2006 and 2007. I got on it in early 2008, and for whatever reason, it made sense to me. I understood it right away. It's a very strange, abstract thing to try and explain to people, but I got it. And so I made a lot of connections early on, but just like with anything else, the longer something is around, the more users there are and the more filters you have to get through. It's kind of like, when people were first setting up websites in trying to like get up in the Google search rankings. And if you were out there early and, did your SEO well, then you could get up to the top of the rankings without a ton of effort. But now if you try to do that, it's impossible. Like you cannot game that system anymore. And it's a lot like that on Twitter now, Facebook to a lesser extent. The rules, and if you're trying to use Facebook for business now, it's really hard. The way that they have their rules set up, and it's kind of a pay to play system. You used to be able to use your community page or what have you, and you could generate a lot of business that way, but it's much more difficult now. And Twitter, you can do a lot of promoted ads on Twitter. One of the interesting things, now, like Instagram, I think is really an interesting place, especially for real estate folks. So that's something that wasn't around before, but I think is I hate to use the expression game changer because that's buzz speak and that annoys me. But I think it's a really interesting platform, and that there are a lot of ways that can be used that people haven't really started to exploit yet.
I have agents reach out to me and want to talk maybe strategy, and they'll bring up their business page on Facebook, and I bristle, and I tell them, I just say, look, I think there's two reasons you need a business page. One, if I Google your name and your name's attached, it's going to show up. That's awesome.
Yep.
And two, if you're going to do ads, you need one. But then I instantly ask them, so you're a good copywriter, graphic designer, marketer? Are you good at all that? Because if you're not going to do your own Facebook ad campaign. You're going to pay somebody to do it, right? Yeah. So I think, I'd love your take on if a realtor was to DM you today and said, what sort of content should I be putting out there? What would you tell them?
Well,
and I'll apologize here. I'm kind of picking your brain.
No, it's okay. You pick away. That's why I'm here. But it's one of those questions like, you ask somebody, how deep is a hole? It's a non-specific answer, and what kind of content you should be creating depends on who you are trying to reach, and that also applies to what audience you're trying to reach might give you might inform what platform you want to use. I think from a reaching consumers standpoint, I still see people, agents, tweeting out links to their listings on Twitter, and I'm often confused as to why they do that. I mean, it can't hurt to kind of throw out a wider net. But from a consumer standpoint, that's not going to be the most effective use of time. I think for realtors, it's such a visual industry. Like Instagram and Pinterest are wonderful. House, if anybody's using that, is a terrific platform for that. Anywhere where you can showcase what you're doing, because, as they say, a picture tells 1,000 words. You can really tell a wonderful story with visual media like that.
For a realtor who has some writing skills, is it too late to be a blogger?
I don't think it's ever too late to be a blogger. I mean, I think there's a ton of worth to blogging, and you can use, your own website or something like Medium, which is a wonderful platform. I love it. You want to have kind of thought leadership material, why it is that you deserve people's business. If you have, smarts about what you're doing and you have some good information to share, then by all means, write about it. There's so much canned stuff out there that, people saying the same things over and over again. So if you have something original to say, then by all means say it, and you can share those links out wherever you like. It doesn't have to just live on that blog. You can use that content to disseminate wherever you want.
I want to talk about video a little bit. We haven't talked about YouTube at all. And it's been the year of video in real estate for like 10 straight years, right? They were talking about it like 2010. So YouTube as a strategy, and how would you, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh. YouTube is the biggest search engine there is. So it has massive power, and video is wonderful. If you look at the guys like Connor and Ethan over at BombBomb, they have, really, they've done great things with video and have a lot of terrific things to say. So if you don't follow them, by all means do. But there's a ton of power in video and the stories that you can convey, and you can be so creative with it. I think it's fantastic. I wish more people did it.
Yeah, you bring up BombBomb. When I use this line a lot, I said, if you only had $50 a month for your marketing budget, which is kind of sad, but if all you had was $50 a month, go get a BombBomb account and use it every day. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, no, I think it's a terrific service. And for video, like YouTube is great. And all of the different platforms have streaming features now. So on Facebook or Instagram, Twitter itself, they have their adjunct service called Periscope. And those kind of live streaming services are terrific. If you wanted to give somebody like a quick virtual tour, if you will, of a listing, or talk about, what's going on in the communities around the areas where you're selling, that kind of stuff. It's fantastic.
I got to ask you this question. It just came to mind. You work for a large company.
Yeah.
With probably a real budget. How does that feel? What is that like to be able to do, much different things, say, than the average realtor?
Yeah, it is a completely different animal. And the first time I went, I was asked to go and we needed a new social listening platform, and I was in charge of going to scope that out. And this was the first time I had ever been involved in purchasing a piece of enterprise software. And I about had a heart attack when I saw how much it cost. I was like, whoa. But then when you think about, this is Citrix is a multi-billion-dollar company. And so, I'm used to dealing with my solo practitioner budget, which was, I couldn't even call it a fraction of what this company has at its disposal. But yeah, it's interesting what you can do with marketing dollars is pretty amazing. And yeah.
Yeah. And I think for realtors, that's the issue, is how do you carve out that little thing, that little niche where you're going to get really good at this skill or this idea or this strategy.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. It's first of all, you can't use all of the platforms. It just like, going back to the analogy, you can't be a good painter, a good sculptor, a good writer, a good cook, all of those things. Each of the different social platforms has a very different personality. You're going to like more than another. And those kinds of things do come through. So unless you've got a big marketing budget to deal with using all of those things, like if you're an independent agent and you're not working for one of the big companies, those entities can afford to do all of the social marketing and spend the millions of dollars and that kind of thing. So find the one area that you like and the thing that you are good at and do that. And as long as you're consistent with it, I think that's the key to it. People often will do one thing, and if it falls flat, then they give up on it. And that's a mistake. If you keep at it, then that's more of like a snowball effect, and you will get more momentum as you go on.
Right. And that from experience and practice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've arrived at the part of the show. I'm going to have fun here.
Good.
Yeah. I want you to air some pet peeves. Yeah. I read your LinkedIn article, your rant. I'm going to call it a rant on on reflexive pronouns, which is great.
Yeah.
So give me a couple of your top pet peeves that maybe will help a couple people listening in.
Buzz speak makes me nuts. People who say things like, and I get this in the corporate world a lot, but I know that everybody hears this when people, talk about our blue ocean strategy and, let's parking lot this idea and we'll circle on back around to, like, those things make me crazy. Just speak like a human being, please. Those things really did it. But the article that you were talking about was one that things that I run into all the time where people say, Bill Risser and myself were doing such and such a thing. And that makes me like twitch. Like, when you go to the dentist and you get that thing where you like try and walk down the chair with your butt.
Yeah.
That is what that does to me. So don't do that. First of all, you say, Bill and I had a great conversation on his podcast, or, the best way to check yourself on those things is to remove the other person and say, would you ever say myself had a great idea? No, you would never, ever say this unless someone had beaten you over the head. So this is a thing that gets on my nerves. Again, going back to the things like people who say, I got a sneak peek and spell it PEAK. And so that comes back to my thing. But again, I have my own, therapies and ways that I work out these frustrations and try not to, to be cruel to people. But yeah, this is something that I find apparently people find endearing.
On Twitter, you're at Startabuzz. Where'd that name come from?
Yeah, so that went along with Honeybee Consulting, which was my my company, and so Honeybee means, or Melissa means honeybee in Greek, and that's where Honeybee came from. And since I was doing PR and trying to get people noticed, start a buzz, and so it was just a natural fit, and that is just the name that people now know me by.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap this up for you and ask you,
Sure.
I'm going to ask the same question I've asked every guest since Jay Thompson. Jay.
Oh my gosh. Jay is my.
So the question is, what one piece of advice would you give a new agent just starting in the business?
Oh my gosh. There are so many, from a writing perspective, I would just say, to be yourself, be diligent and just really don't be afraid to go after things. But from a writing perspective, don't try to write the way you think you're supposed to. There's nothing wrong with having fun and being yourself. If you're writing in a way that is different from the way everybody else is doing it, then people are going to notice what you're doing, because there's so many people who do things cookie cutter. So don't do that.
Melissa, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So I am tethered to Twitter seemingly all the time. So, sending me a message, an @message on Twitter is great. I'm pretty easy to find on Facebook, on Instagram. I am also at Start-A-Buzz. And I'm one of those people who just seems to be online all the time, much to my family's chagrin. but I'm pretty easy to find, and I'm happy to answer questions to anybody.
Melissa, thank you so much for your time today. This really was a lot of fun, just exactly what I expected. And
Thanks, Bill.
Good luck going forward in your with your career.
Thanks so much, Bill. This was great. I had a great time.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Sessions podcast. To leave a review or rating, go to ratethispodcast.com/RE Sessions. You can also subscribe to the podcast at your favorite podcast listening app. Finally, you can go to therealestatesessions.com and subscribe to our email newsletter and be notified whenever a new episode is released. New episodes of the Real Estate Sessions podcast are released every Tuesday.